Yeah.
Okay, I think we are ready to start. I'm going to ask everybody except Larry, and this includes me, to mute your phones so that there's no interference with what Larry's going to tell us. If you don't know how to do that, just make sure you don't put your phone on speaker so we don't get the outside noise. So you can take it away, Larry.
Okay. Thank you. I feel honored to have been asked to do this presentation, and I'm glad to be able to do that, to tell you some of my experiences serving in the armed forces and more specifically the Army Veterinary Corps. Most people when in this neighborhood for the last 50 years have known me as a practicing veterinarian, and when I talk to them about, well, I spent 4 years on active duty in the Army Veterinary Corps, the first question is well, what do veterinarians do in the Army or any military setting? And it's common question, but veterinarians have had a history of serving in the military for the United States for many years, going back to George Washington as a general in 1792, ordering up 58 farriers that he needed to be working with their cavalry units, their horse mounted soldiers, and moving equipment that he needed. He needed veterinary service, which in those years, being a farrier was same as being a veterinarian, and they kind of mixed duties along the way. But over the years, the veterinary service developed and got stronger and stronger as it got into the area of modern science, where there was a need to have people on the ground that knew about bacteriology and food safety, and being able to bring that to all military services, because of the sheer numbers of people that were being serviced by the military food services. So veterinarians, of course, have had the experience of working with livestock, with food-producing animals, and have known the need to be able to put that into action to keep troops safe and well fed. So food service and cavalry were kind of the cavalry becoming first, and then food service after that. In 1916, the Congress passed an order creating the Veterinary Corps of the United States Army. Along the line, the Air Force has had a veterinary service, which doesn't exist now, and the Army is caring for all of that. But my story starts back as a farm boy growing up on a dairy farm in Iowa, and being interested in what was going on with our livestock, and especially when the veterinarian was there to do a variety of things that we did there, and so I ended up deciding that I wanted to go to veterinary school, and that was that would have been or was at the Iowa State University in Ames, Iowa, and I started in a dairy science undergraduate program, and by the end of 6 years of total college, I had my degree in veterinary medicine. But along the way, at that point in time, there was a lot of, excuse me, a lot of conflict going on. We had the Cuban Missile Crisis, that people that even had deferments for educational deferments for the draft to not be subject to being drafted. Those were even becoming doubtful whether they might hold in place, and I was due to graduate in 1966, and things were really starting to crank up in the Vietnam War era, and they were starting to bring on a lot of troops, and in that mix was a need for veterinarians, and I went ahead and got an early commissioning from the U.S. Army in the Medical Service Corps, and my last year in veterinary school at Iowa State was I was on active duty as a second lieutenant in the Medical Service Corps, and then upon graduation, I was slipped over to the veterinary corps, where I spent the remainder of my years in the service. The thing about the early commissioning program, it was good. I was on salary. I had the costs of my education were covered. But in return for that, I needed to pay back an extra year of active duty, which added on to 2 years of normal requirements of time. Well, I added everything up, and I had 4 years of active service before I was on and out to become a veterinarian in Wisconsin. My first stop after graduation was to go to a medical field service training school in Texas at the San Antonio base there, and I was trained with MDs, dentists, nurses, and other veterinarians. Most of us were just young and getting out of our degree programs, so it was an interesting time, about 6 weeks of learning how to be a military officer and know who to salute and when to salute, and some of those things that were pretty important. And then at the end of that period at Fort Sam Houston, the veterinarians got split out at that point into 2 different sectors. You either went into research and development and took assignments at research facilities in the United States or abroad, but mostly on on site in the United States. Walter Reed Hospital. There was Fitzsimmons Hospital in near Denver. Brooks facility in San Antonio, Texas, that was specializing in skin and burns that resulted from combat, or the napalm that was being used was causing a lot of problems. So I went there, and we went our separate directions. Then the people that went to research, about half of the veterinarians did that, and the other half went into food safety, which was where I was assigned to. And I went from there to a 4-month school in Chicago that was a facility that was near the old livestock stockyards and packing plants, and we learned the specifics of doing meat inspection, dairy inspection, bakeries, any place that was going to be producing food for the military had to have sanitary inspections done on them. We learned how to do that, and then we also had to learn to be able to supervise technical help that were also enlisted people in the Army to be able to do the proper kinds of inspections on food that was in storage, that was coming, going, or was being sent to military posts, and so that was the end of my formal schooling from the Army Veterinary Corps to go with me to my first assignment was in New Orleans, Louisiana, and we had food storage facilities there that had to have statistical sampling done on a given basis according to what foods were involved. We had some posts there that were in the area. Fort Polk was real close to us. We were doing inspection on foods that were going out to the Central America, Panama in particular, where there were Army military or American military bases. And I enjoyed the time I spent in New Orleans. My wife and I, my late wife Donna, was on the road with me and making all of these stops to get educated, and then we ended up living on the economy in New Orleans, being attached to Fort Sam Houston as our headquarters. So in that period of time, we had a set of twins, and we enjoyed their young first years growing up in New Orleans. And then on the 4th of June of 1968, I got orders to be preparing to go to Vietnam for a tour there. And at that point in time, then I moved Donna two two 1-year-olds, and a daughter that was on the way yet, took them back to Iowa, where Donna's mother lived, and and she and the kids lived with them during that period of time that I was in Vietnam. Vietnam was an interesting experience for me, and being a veterinarian, there were a lot of avenues that needed to be covered that veterinarians fit the job for, and I arrived in the Tan Son Nhut Air Base in Saigon on the 17th of August, and started my duty there. I was turned out that I had enough time in grade that I ended up being the executive officer of our 176 Veterinary Detachment at Cam Ranh Bay, which meant that I was involved in supervising veterinary personnel that were stationed in the mid 1/3 of the country of South Vietnam. I did a lot of traveling to the sites where we had. Some of them had veterinarians. If they had a food service, they had veterinarians. If they were doing any kind of local procurement of especially fruits and vegetables that were to be bought off of the Vietnamese economy, those all had to have veterinary inspection accomplished, and so I traveled around a lot, and most of our travel was in any kind of a flying vehicle that we could find that would take us, and that usually was the Army helicopter groups. The Huey helicopter was kind of a all-purpose vehicle and did a lot of taxiing of people to be where they were supposed to be. We did have 2 dairy plants in South Vietnam that were taking shipments of dried powdered milk and reconstituting them into milk and ice cream. So the troops, if they were close enough to a mess hall that was large enough to accommodate that, well, they were well supplied with milk and ice cream. But I was, for the most part, pretty impressed by the quality of food and the quality and the variety that troops were eating when they could get in out of the bush, and everything was kind of free choice, so you could so you didn't have to worry about getting shorted and going hungry. But so we did have a lot of shipments coming into Cam Ranh Bay. It was for a long time a port for the different countries that tried to control Vietnam over the years, and there were shipments of food coming in usually they were shipped out from California Post and moved across in huge freighter ships to be utilized. We also had at Cameron Bay, we had enough people there that there were a lot of the troops that were picking up stray dogs and having a pet that they could keep with them. It was amazing that that some of them could keep those pets with them when they were even out in the bush. But they came when they came back. Well, any problems they had, we have provided a veterinary service, and then the one area that I spent a lot of time on was civic action, and that is a part of the military that people don't usually have knowledge of. We had a veterinary civic action team that we were helping perform a variety of services, but our main goal was to improve the knowledge of farming and agriculture in Vietnam and South Vietnam. They had a pretty good population of swine, a lot of cattle that were used both for draft and food purposes, and a lot of poultry, a whole lot of poultry. And people, we had a Jeep set up like a mobile veterinary service that we would run out of practice here in Oregon. We had everything we could get our hands on that we boxed up and went out into the country off base and during daytime, and went from one little hamlet to another, and the people would come carrying their duck or their chickens, or have you go look at their swine that were ailing, or work with with cattle. The U.S. Army Veterinary Corps, along with the U.S. Aid program, had a laboratory in Saigon where there was production being made of a variety of cattle and swine vaccines, and whenever they had a load of it ready to go, well, some of us would go down there, fly down and pick it up under cold storage, bring it back, and there would have been an organized effort to have people come to a center point with their livestock where we could vaccinate or deworm whatever combination of medicines that we had available, and all the while we were doing this, we were training the native population on what we were doing and having them learn how to do it. We did some minor surgeries and neuterings and things that happen with livestock. We taught them those skills, and it was good to see that they wanted to learn and they wanted to be able to do the best they could. One side note on the raising swine, the French and British had been in in South Vietnam for over a good period of years before the United States came, and they had instituted some programs, particularly on swine production, and they had some actually pretty good swine specimens that they were breeding and populating and getting units put together that were economically making some funds for them. So the other thing about that is that we started doing recycling of garbage out of military bases and taking it, and it was the Vietnamese would come in with tanker vehicles like petroleum tankers, and they would stop at all the bases that were set up for processing waste out of the mess halls and take it home and feed it to their pigs and probably chickens. All of that had to be cooked and heated so that it wasn't causing transmission of diseases that would be harmful to people. We were always on the alert for the things that might be of a zoonotic issue to the humans from the animals and vice versa. So we were quite involved in putting together some groups that were helping get the people vaccinated, their dogs vaccinated for rabies. It was amazing. Some of the hamlets I went into were not very well supplied. There was not much going for them to make a living off of, and I saw a lot of kids that were ill and had problems with ear infections and skin infections with funguses, and oftentimes we ended up taking care of them right along with the animals that we came to see, and I felt good about that. So I processed out of Vietnam with 10 months there, and I was very happy to get home and to I had put in my time in the service and met the goals that I wanted to, and had some really good experiences along the way, and met a lot of good people, and hopefully learned a lot from the whole experience. So that kind of covers what I have written down for notes here. If there's any questions, I would be glad to address them.
Where in Iowa are you from?
I'm from near Indianola, Iowa. If you're familiar with Iowa, that's 20 miles south of Des Moines, south central Iowa. At Iowa State, had one of the first veterinary schools, and now the largest veterinary school in the U.S. The one thing that I've stayed connected with Iowa State in a number of ways, but one of the programs that they have been big in developing in recent years is called the One Health service, and it is a concept of getting all of the medical interests, be they physicians, veterinarians, animal doctors, people doctors, earth doctors, including environmental health and public food and health safety, to get them all organized and collaborating with one another. And that has been happening, and we're right for that. That's where the thinking is, that we need to be watching what's going on in other living groups within our population worldwide, and we certainly have been seeing that in the last months with the COVID-19 epidemic, and there have been veterinarians that have been involved in research for vaccines and preventative care on that for a long while, and the Dr. Fauci, that is head of the science development area of the U.S., not the CDC, but a public health. He's been very involved in the One Health program that's been has been getting organized for about five years now, so probably a little longer than that. Is there any other questions? One thing I would mention that I was fortunate enough to take a trip back to Vietnam in 2001, and it was very rewarding to see in the places where our civic action teams had been active, that there was a definite prosperity going on with their food animal production and agriculture in general, and a lot more mechanization that has happened with that as compared to where they were when I was there. There were no vehicles or no tractors, or it was all by hand or with water buffalo or other kinds of draft animals to get the work done. So that was a good experience, and we were able to go to the area where I had served, and then we did go on up to Hanoi, which was up above the DMZ that we were all familiar with, but nobody had been to that point in time. There had not been any work with Vietnam and in the United States, and President Bill Clinton made the first visit to Vietnam of anybody of that stature from the United States after the war, and it was he had been there just months before we were there, and it was there was a lot of Vietnamese people that were very interested in talking to us, both in South Vietnam and North Vietnam. They were thanking us for being there in the military, and I think they were truly thankful that something had been gained out of the war. They called it the American War, and their people had a lot of respect. And of course, they'd recognize us as Americans, and they would be coming right up and talking to you openly about that. So, are there any other questions or thoughts that anybody would like to throw out? One thing I would have to say that was impressive to me as a veterinarian in school, in veterinary school, we heard about all these diseases, hoof and mouth disease and anthrax and brucellosis, tuberculosis, all those things that had been eradicated, fortunately, and most all of those had their components of causing illness in people. I was able to actually see those see animals that were infected with those diseases. Hog cholera was another one that was a huge disease to have conquered here in the United States, and I was seeing it on a regular basis in Vietnam. And the one other thing that I didn't cover too much was the guard and sentry dogs that the German Shepherds that were on duty in Vietnam. There were about the figures show about 5,000 dogs that served as guard and sentry dogs. They were out on the front lines helping uncover ambushes and landmines and such, that they were their handlers were with them all the time, and they were with their handlers all the time. And if a dog got sick or injured, well, they came to the veterinary service that we had on Cameron Bay and get treated. We had some pretty good facilities for doing surgery for the canine corps people and their dogs. So there's a lot to be said about that. But there is a tribute to the canine involvement in the United States, and particularly in the Vietnam conflict. There is a tribute to them at Neilsville. If anybody's ever through there and wants to see it, I think it's in a park in the upper part of the city. So I would, I guess in closing, say that I think I had a different experience in Vietnam, and I sure take my hats off to the people who were out on the ground, and some of them gave their lives for that, and we just can't say enough for their service and what they gave. And again, I appreciate the fact that there is a Veterans Day, and that there is recognition of all people who have served either in peacetime or in non-peace times. Thank you.